Long-running tensions between NATO allies Turkey and Greece could get worse. After inking a deal to buy 6 additional Rafale fighter jets from France, Athens quickly followed up with an order for 3 advanced warships. While Greece's prime minister says he is in no mood for an arms race with Turkey, his weapons deals are telling otherwise. Turkey's defense minister Hulusi Akar said Greece's buying spree wouldn't change the balance of power in the region. The sale comes amid heightened tensions in the energy-rich Eastern Mediterranean. On Sunday, a Turkish Navy ship said it sent a Greek Cypriot research vessel away after it entered waters without permission. Turkey and Greece have several competing maritime claims over who has access to the vast gas reserves in the Eastern Mediterranean. Ankara has criticized Athens for what it calls a maximalist approach to both maritime boundaries and airspace that come at the expense of Turkey. Talks have been ongoing to reduce tensions, but it's unclear which side will offer any concessions first. And to discuss where tensions could be headed, joining me now from Ankara is Giray Sadik. He is the director of the EU Research Center at Ankara Yıldırım Beyazıt University. And from Virginia, Dimitris Tsarouhas. He is a visiting associate professor at Virginia Tech University. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. Dimitris, what's the significance of this latest defense deal between France and Greece?
Hello, and thank you for having me. I think it is a very important agreement. It's one that has been in the making for quite some time, and I think it's significant both politically and militarily. On the military front, of course, what we now have is the purchase on the part of Greece of supermodern frigates that the Greek Navy had been requesting for quite some time. And I think that the fact that the government is now able to deliver on this is very significant for military purposes. And of course, the even more important side of this is the political one, I think, where the joint defense clause between France and Greece to NATO members, to EU members, comes to solidify the partnership that has grown between the two sides. Let's recall that France sent Charles de Gaulle to the Eastern Med last summer when tensions between Turkey and Greece were very high. And now the French government under President Macron is underlining once again its commitment to Greece's defense.
So, Giray, what kind of political and military ramifications this deal will have on the region? Dimitris just said it's very important, but following Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar's remarks that second-hand Rafale jets will not change the power balance in the region, and Greece quickly followed up and ordered 3 advanced ships. What's your take on that?
This won't go further either when it comes to power balance or dealing with Turkey militarily. I think the deal is more significant politically in that regard, especially considering that Turkey, Greece and France, they are all NATO allies. And this deal, although it looks directly against Turkey, on a broader scale, it does harm NATO alliance, more specifically NATO cohesion, and encourages small groupings of allies between each other. And it's one thing to sell French arms, modern equipment to Greece. That's something allies can do. France can sell weapons to Turkey also. But it's another thing to add that joint defense clause for a NATO ally against another NATO ally. So that is oxymoron, to say the least, and harming alliance cohesion as a starter.
So what's your take on that, Dimitri? The deal includes this defense assistance clause, which provides for the immediate military assistance of France to Greece and vice versa. And that also includes some ally countries as well. What's your take on that?
So I think that it's a very rare form of agreement, in the sense that a joint defense clause is usually absent from this sort of bilateral treaties. And it's also quite detailed. That is certainly correct, in the sense that not even the NATO mutual defense clause goes as far as this one does. It's a clear sign of political commitment to defend each other's territory, it doesn't seem to me to be turning against anyone that doesn't want to be the victim of such a joint defense clause. And I think that both the United States and NATO have already made it clear that there is full alignment between the agreement between the French and the Greeks and everything that they are holding dear themselves. So in that sense, I would focus more on what this means politically going forward. The idea that is that the two sides will support each other militarily is interesting from another perspective too, because it includes the possibility of Greek army unit or others being sent to the Sahel to defend France in Mali. So it's not only about the French coming to the Eastern Med.
Yeah, I mean, French President Macron, speaking after the signing of the deal, said, quote, "The Europeans must stop being naive. We need to react and show we have power to defend ourselves." So, Giray, what did he try to mean that, and how has shifting American priorities from Europe pushed some European countries to find their own ways?
Well, this has more to do with French frustration rather than European strategy. And we see that Macron may not find much of European company to that. And that's at the very least they gain that with the Greece. Alternatively speaking, those defense arrangements are within NATO. What if Turkey does, which is encouraged by this deal, cooperate with other NATO allies, such as Turkish-Italian position being closer in Libya, and maybe in other venues, such as in Cyprus with the UK enhanced cooperation. And a case further, my colleague mentioned from Africa. You know, our president, there is a forthcoming visit to Africa of that tour. Then nobody should be disturbed by those and should welcome those, another NATO ally having some common interests in Africa and elsewhere. And similar groupings or cooperation attempts, Turkey can only ask for similar degree of understanding from its NATO allies.
So what's your take on that, Dimitri? I mean, does this agreement, you say it will have some political consequences moving forward, but does this render NATO's Article 5 irrelevant, or the organization as a whole, which Biden says Article number 5, by the way, is sacred for his country?
I wouldn't think so, Aisha. I don't think that makes NATO irrelevant in any shape or form. I also agree with my colleague that a form of competition here is obviously evident, and France is trying to position itself in the middle of this. Obviously, they're well aligned with Greece on a whole series of bilateral and regional issues, and therefore they're making use of this. But I wouldn't think of the French-Greek agreement as somehow excluding the commitments of those states, either to the alliance or indeed to the European Union. Of course, the fact is that France is trying to build this up as potentially the beginning of some form of a European defense union, including procurement between European allies. I'm not so sure this is going to work. It's way too early to suggest that this is possible. But at the very least, it does suggest that there is the political beginning of a partnership that has been flourishing between France and Greece, and it is likely to move forward. I don't believe that it's turning itself against any other nation. It shouldn't be turning itself against any other nation. And the fact that Greece and Turkey are continuing their exploratory talks tomorrow in Ankara is probably a sign that this formal deal is not going to stop those talks from going ahead.
So Dimitri, I mean, how France, now it has kind of asserted itself as a leader in European defense integration, especially after this diplomatic blow-up with the United States as well as Australia. I mean, do you believe that he'll be able to convince Atlanticist countries like Germany and Central European countries? Will it be easy?
I think it is not going to be easy at all. France wants to play the role of a protagonist, and it is particularly committed to the Eastern Med, not least because of historical reasons. As I mentioned before, underlying competition with Turkey has been going on for a long time, but the possibility of moving ahead with a fully fledged European Defence Union is going to be extremely difficult. We will have to wait and see what sort of German government will be formed following the election, but I doubt that there is going to be a closely tight, if you like, Franco-German axis moving forward together. Paris seems to be moving to one direction, Berlin, for its own reasons, is a lot more reluctant to go ahead. And therefore, the possibility of a fully fledged European Defence Union, in my eyes at least, at the moment, is actually quite minimal.
So, Giray, if Europe integrates its defense system and, let's say, forms a united army, where does this leave Turkey?
Well, first of all, we are on the same page with my colleague that the hopes for European Defence Union are far from being a reality, and they are heavily contested within the EU. Adding Turkey as within NATO, that contestation becomes even more significant. Clearly, this is likely to exclude Turkey, but question is, even without Turkey, what they can do, and that is not promising either. Coming to the exploratory rounds, which it will be the 63rd of them starting tomorrow.
Yes.
Well, it is, on the one hand, it's good that diplomacy goes well. We are on the same page with Dimitris. But on the other hand, signing a bombastic arms deal and on top of it, violating Turkish maritime control zones on purpose and many times despite warnings, are not sending the right signals ahead of those talks.
So, Dimitri, are tensions likely to increase in the Eastern Mediterranean as well as the Aegean, since just a few days ago a Turkish Navy ship pushed back a Greek Cypriot vessel after it entered waters without the permission?
I'm afraid that this sort of tensions will continue, and it seems to me that the deal between France and Greece is actually unrelated to those tensions. The flourishing since the summer of 2020. This past summer has been a bit smoother, thankfully, not least because both the Greek and the Turkish economies needed a bit of a boost, not least through tourism revenues in order to try and recover from the coronavirus crisis. But the fact that there are moves on the part of Turkey in disputed territory or even territory that is considered to be on the side of Athens falling within its Greek maritime boundaries is of course quite disturbing. Now, as my colleague said, the fact that the exploratory talks are going forward means that there is at least a political will to continue making sure that those sort of disturbances are not going to stop the role of diplomacy. But what I like to see eventually going forward is obviously an agreement between the two sides on delimiting particularly maritime borders. And I think that international should be the formula that they will be using to do so.
So, Giray, should Turkey be worried since its neighbor now will be equipped with what military experts describe as cutting-edge technology weapons? Will they be a game changer in the region?
It's too early to say that those are likely to be game changers. Therefore, rather than worrying, I would say Turkey must stay prepared, because to defend its rights based on international law, Turkey then it's left with no other option but to maintain its own defense and local indigenous arms procurement. That's also necessary for maintaining the legitimate rights of Turks, and in the Eastern Mediterranean of Turkish Cypriots, as well the rights of Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. Therefore, and for regional stability, Turkey must be vigilant. In addition, Turkey should work with the allies and the partners in the region, as Greece is doing. Then I'm sure NATO allies should have the similar approach or understanding for Turkey as well. Only when we have those things balanced, we can achieve to those meaningful agreements.
Yeah, then we'll have to wait and see how diplomatic efforts between Turkey and Greece will play out moving forward. Unfortunately, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining us on Straight Talk.